Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and hey, you can do this. Because this is kCathedral3. So what, you might ask, would this be? Well, this is a reverb plugin, but I told you last week about how I was developing Cloud Coat in order to use that Bezier curve waveform reconstruction thing and let you do downsampling in the particular way that I came up with. And it was all about being able to make reverbs better. So let's do a little bit of back and forth here. We're going to do it started like this, and then we did this, and then it becomes this. So this is kCathedral1, started like this. Which, like, cool and all. But people thought that was a little metallic, and so then we did this. But we can keep going because this is kCathedral3, which acts like this. So how does this work? Well, each one of these is a different algorithm. Oh, by the way, this here is a Surge synthesizer. Surge is the synthesizer project that is bringing us Bacon Paul, who has made Airwindows Consolidated for us all. And I took the Surge synthesizer and did a little thing that I'm calling Moderntron or something. I wanted to do a Genesis sounding Mellotron sound. And since Surge lets you do polyphonic aftertouch, I'm using my X key with it. And all of this is in the box. So that's the Surge XT synthesizer causing these sounds. It's not actually a real Mellotron, but I'm making it act like one. And we can also bring a little dry in there. But the controls on kCathedral3 are something a little special because this is the first time I've had controls on kCathedral in any form. It started out as I want to make a reverb that you can just put on things and use them. But then some of the stuff that I was able to do with it was just too cool to pass up. And so now kReverbs that I make are going to have at least these controls. And if anything else comes to mind, I will include them. This is almost like a step in the direction of Ben Jordan, where it's like, yeah, let's actually have reverbs where you can do lots of crazy things. Here's one of them. We've got Top dB, very similar to what I'm using in Console X, which I'm working on. But this Top dB is not a Top dB that is built onto the end of the reverb output. This Top dB is a discontinuity factor that works like loudness, living inside the regeneration of the reverb, which is, of course, the second control. Regen goes from 0, which is a lot less regenerative than you might think, to 1, which is going to give you lots of regeneration. But then top dB applies to the regeneration, and what it's going to do is every time the regeneration loops through the reverb again, we apply it to change the sound of the sustain, like this. So we can turn the regeneration, we can turn top dB up on the regeneration, even when it's a very large regeneration, to apply this sort of extreme volume distortion sound to only the feedback of the reverb. For the rest of it, I have a separate discontinuity plugin that you can use. So you could put just discontinuity on the whole thing. This is where you get to put discontinuity on only the feedback inside the reverb. So if you had the sound that we're making apparently at 140 dB with the air crackling away like crazy, here, let's try it on some drums. And also we've got D-Res, so let's make it be a little bit higher pitch, shall we? Top dB produces the effect of extreme loudness inside the cathedral that we are simulating. If it is turned down, we get this. And the sustain of the reverb sounds more like it is a quiet sound that we're recording with microphones that are turned up louder. And of course, if we turn regen down, it actually becomes quite sustained. Another thing that we can do is pre-delay. And all these things are controls that might be useful to have in a big old cathedral reverb that you were trying to do interesting stuff with. And that's not even counting when you're doing unusual things like this. Or let's just bring the pre-delay in a little bit closer there. And again, so that basically means you can clamp down on the regeneration in two separate ways. One of the ways is using the regen control, although this one's not actually going to the sort of infinite sustain thing that Clearcoat could do, but it's giving you a good range of control over just how big it should be. And then top delay also lets you clip the regenerative feedback in a way that acts like distorting the actual literal air. So if we put these things back to relatively normal settings, like say our drum sound is only about 105 dB or maybe a little bit less, at which point regen could be quite large. And bear in mind, if this is not enough decay time for you, there's another thing that we can do. You can use D-Res to res the entire cathedral down, but we're not doing a D-Res3 type of thing where we're using a bit crush or a frequency crush on it. No, we're scaling the whole thing down in sample rate, meaning we are scaling the cathedral up in size. So if you want a really long sustain, this is how you go about doing it. And we can throw that little mellotron thing on. But since D-res is really low, regen's just gonna hang out there indefinitely. It'll make a really big pad. It'll hang on to this for quite a long time. And that's kCathedral for you. And of course, since that is such a long sustain that it's kind of exaggerated, let's bounce it back up again. To where it feels more like a real acoustic space. And now it's getting a little loud, so we can pull back some of the regen a bit. We could go with a drier sound on this mellotron imitation that I did in Surge XT. We could put D-res up again. Then bring it down to sort of the first notch of D-res. And go back to a much wetter sound. And get ourselves a nice little cathedral reverb. Again, this is no longer really designed to mimic the Bricasti patch that I had to study. This has gone into an entirely different realm where now I am basically just trying to I'm basically inventing my own church, but it's a plugin. It's the plugin church. It's the Church of Airwindows, in that it's kCathedral3. Anybody who goes around acting like I am the disciple of a new church, settle down. It's fine. It's going to be fine. And by fine, I mean this. Although I'm a little bit loud here. Don't mind me. Since that got kind of loud, let it die out a little bit, or maybe I'll pull back the regen, and then we'll give it another go from the point that I left off. .5 is usually a good setting for things. And some of that distortiness is part of the sound. See, here's the sound. And I think enough for our sustainy mellotron imitations. If you're really interested, I did the Surge XT variation on a mellotron because I had been listening to Genesis recently, and I did it on a live stream fairly recently. So if you want to watch me coming up with that, I can show you. And I can do other synthesizer patches on other live streams going forwards. But yeah, for now, I am just going to let you have kCathedral. There's some interesting stuff that's going to be coming along. In particular, I have heard back from the folks that are making the control surface I'm going to be using for console X. And I'm increasingly enthusiastic about this. It's Yale Techs out of Argentina. And I got a little curious and I went and found interviews with the guy who's talking to me out of Yale Techs. It's about 4 people or so. And have been listening to this whole interview in Spanish, which I don't speak. But the vibe of the guy is kind of Jack Conte-like. And he's really interested in sustainable wood for the wood that goes into the devices. And he's really interested in giving people the inspiration to choose their own interfaces and build their own. This is like a match made in heaven for me. So I'm really liking Yale Techs at this point. I have a very good feeling about it. So yeah, Matteo, good job. And we're all going to be very excited to see the control surface and what I'm able to do with it. It always feels kind of nice when you wind up running across somebody like in a completely other country who is very simpatico with your views and purposes. Like, I'll give you a little picture of what Yale Techs are up to. They are talking with there was a guy in England apparently who asked for this. They're talking with people who have bought their stuff about sending the stuff back and building it into different hardware, like different boxes if a new box is desired, rather than just selling you an entirely new one and throwing the other one away, because they're interested in sustainability and interested in being able to recycle perfectly good working gear by coming up with new things to do it. Like if I build my control surface, as I am having it done, and then suddenly I decide that I want to build it into a rack unit, they'd probably talk with me about being able to build that into a rack unit and be just as excited as I am about being able to repurpose the gear rather than having to throw it away. To me, that's just really cool. I like these people a lot. But anyway, maybe they would like kCathedral3 a lot, and I hope that you like kCathedral3 a lot. And I'll see some of you folks on Tuesday. Again, if you're interested in these synthesizer patches, like you would like me to try to design one like I designed the Mellotron style patch, show up on one of my live streams, Tuesdays and Thursdays, basically 9 to 5 Eastern Standard Time. And we can try to build more surge patches together. Let's have some fun with all of this, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.